The following presentation is brought to you by kmmedia.pro. Please visit kmmedia.pro for more information. Now stay right where you are as we present. Welcome to Positive Talk Radio, evolving ideas one conversation at a time. Great guests, dynamic stories and interviews, plus new thoughts on a wide range of topics and concepts. I hope that you'll hang with me, Kevin McDonald, my friends, and of course, you. As together we work to understand why we are all here and what we can do to make our world a better place for all of us. To be happy, be kind, and live in peace together. Yep, that's Positive Talk Radio. Another episode of Positive Talk Radio. I am so happy to be here today. I have got somebody on with me today that she's been on before, but she is so dynamic that it's worth having her on all the time because she's really, really good at what she does. And that is Sasha Morozov. And she is that right?
Yes,
I did it.
you did it. You did it.
That was twice in a row. You have no idea how difficult that is for me. In any event, you are here and yesterday was a big day for you, wasn't it?
Not just for me, but for all mamas out there. That's right. It was Mother's Day. And if you're still recovering, I get it. Because let me tell you, I'm normally the one getting up with the kids. And yesterday, since I didn't, it was false advertisement for my body that my body thought this morning that I would also get a second day in a row to sleep in. Not the case. It was a tough morning getting up this morning.
Oh, I'll bet. I have a good friend that she's the mother of four, and she, as all mothers do from time to time, she felt like she wasn't necessarily being honored the way that she would like to be because she was slaving away making breakfast for everybody, and Mother's Day, that's not a big deal. That's just another day, but she wanted to be. And I think most women would like to be celebrated at least one day of the year, don't you think?
Way more than one day a year in my book. I'm just saying.
Oh, I know. And so I talked to her yesterday and she said it was a fabulous day. Her boys made her pancakes and they had a great morning and she felt vindicted and was celebrated. Which is what and I would really like to expand it to include. I think we need a grand feminine day, a day that works for all women and celebrate women. We can have a separate day to celebrate men, but I think that because you guys, even if you don't have kids yet or you're not going to have kids, you're still the caretaker, aren't you?
Absolutely. And I just want to mention there is International Women's Day on March 8th,
Oh,
which in not even just Los Angeles, in the US, we really don't celebrate to the extent that other countries do. Like for me, growing up in Russia and things like that, it is a very big deal, even now to the Russian community. Like people still buy flowers for women on March 8th, and it's gotten better here in terms of like there's some celebrations in the bigger cities, but yes, March 8th is also a day that better be at least in my partner's calendar to make sure that he is celebrating me just for being a woman.
exactly. And you guys deserve to be celebrated for just being a woman. By the way, I did want to mention that since that you've got deep ties in Russia and in that part of the world, I hope everybody's okay and everybody's going to be safe.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. I think the longer a war goes on and atrocities happen across the globe, we kind of tend to shut our eyes. But I for sure try to just stay mindful of any way that we can contribute to bring in more peace or helping the refugees as a result of all of this craziness that has been going on. It's so sad. You would think that by now we would figure things out a little bit better. There'd be a little bit more peace in the world, and just the amount of casualties and lives disrupted is just unfathomable. So,
And what's interesting in that part of the world, Russian people exist on both sides of the border, and
absolutely.
and
Of
you got
course.
and you guys are very close to being, really, really, blood brothers, really, in that part of the world, because and so it's hard to understand, but I hope everybody in your world is safe, and that everybody's doing okay.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. And what's interesting with that is my as we wrap up this part so we can get into the more of the fun stuff and positive talk is the fact that Soviet Union really it only fell apart in the early 90s. So most people were already born by the early 90s, and what that means is most people still look at it in some ways at least that it feels like it's still one in its way. And I know that many countries declared independence, and rightfully so, and all of this stuff. But in a way, where it does feel like a torn family in some ways.
I couldn't agree more, and I for one am of the belief that we are all one, and that, regardless of where we live or who we love or what we look like, that we should all be kind to each other, and really be helpful to each other and not hurt each other. And
Ugh,
that
preach it, Kevin. Yes, yes. We need more of the positivity in the world, which is why we're here.
that's exactly
Hopefully,
right.
hopefully, we can plant that seed for others.
Exactly, and it begins with a message, and it begins one at a time, and if we can put this out there, and if people like it, and they share it, and they share our conversation that we're going to have today, that would be wonderful, and I hope people do.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So I want to talk about my friend Sasha, because is it Sasha or is it Sasha? I suppose if you're in the Great Northwest, it's Sasha or something. I don't know.
Either way is totally fine. Sasha is perfect.
And you are, first of all, you are a mother, you are a wife, and you also have a master's degree in social work.
Yep,
And you worked in nonprofits for 15 years. You're now a coach for women, predominantly mothers, because they have got, I don't know, and we've talked about it before, but it bears repeating. I don't know how mothers put it all together and to survive on a daily basis. It's just beyond me.
I'm telling you, we're superhumans. And the
Yes,
thing
you
is,
are.
it's really because I don't know if we feel like there's just no other way. So we just do it. When you're just in it, you're in it. Just like those sleepless nights when there's a baby born. If I had to have sleepless nights right now, oh my goodness, I wouldn't know right from left, up from down. But somehow I did it. And somehow millions and millions of women continue to do it. So I think part of it is that when you're in it, you are in it, which is also why I think coaching is so important because when you're in it, you can't also, in a way, see what's really happening on the outside as well. And having that outsider, having somebody else's like not just opinion but perspective that knows what they're doing can be such a guiding light to just help get out of this reactiveness, get out of this just go 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 all the time, to make sure that there's solid foundation in place so that way you are living your healthy peaceful life.
And even if it's just somebody that understands you and gets you and that you can bitch to, because we all need somebody in our lives that can give us a different perspective, because we get caught up in our own perspective, and we end up with blinders on a lot of times. Don't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, especially just being heard. Being heard is so important for anybody listening. Whether you have a partner, a child, whoever, everybody just wants to be heard. One of the things I always hear from moms is that, you know, like I'm scared my kid says they don't like themselves. Let's just use an example, right? Or they have no friends, or nobody likes them at school, or things like that. And they always tell me that they're like, no, but I love you, little Johnny, and don't worry, blah blah blah, all of this. And what I say to them is the same thing that I would say to them if they said it to me, which is that you just want to be heard. Little Johnny doesn't need you to tell him that everything's going to be okay. Little Johnny just needs you to sit next to him and say anything, even if it's just, I'm sorry, that's what you're going through. Do you want to tell me more? Exactly what I do for moms. I hope that some of it resonates and that they're able to pass it on to their network and especially their immediate family, because that creates so much more of a stronger bond, not only with our own families, but with our communities. And that's when we actually get to have some more of those deeper conversations.
Exactly. Well, with kids especially, it's, they've never gone through this before, generally speaking. It's the first time for everything for them. And when they're getting, when they feel like they're uh left out, and they're feeling bullied or whatever. Now keeping in mind that bullying is different, in my mind. If somebody is actually bullying your child, you need to take action and to take steps to protect your child. At least that's my opinion. What do you think?
I think it also definitely depends on the situation that it's in, and I think that sometimes, especially as kids, they get worked up, so they want to just say something, and then we automatically fly into the principal's office and all of this. And I just say that doesn't mean you don't do it. It just means try to learn more. Try to just learn more of the situation, because what I see happen is you fly into the principal's office, and the principal office says, well, did you know XYZ? And then you're really caught off guard. So take action, but take action after you know kind of everything that's happened. So that way the action you're taking is appropriate for the situation. And that if somebody is obviously being bullied in any way, or physical abuse, mental abuse, anything like that, that is not okay. That is why we have so many policies in place that we try to prevent as much as we can. And yes, you should be holding the school responsible if it's happening at school, or if it's happening, part of a like a activities, like sports or things like that. There's so many ways that we can help support our children, and especially in today's society, especially with social media, I believe there really does need to be some sort of just oversight on everything when it comes to your children, even if they're tweens, because I know that's when a lot of them really want the individual attention as well.
Yes, indeed. Although I will put a caveat out there, because my ex-wife did this and it caused an enormous amount of trouble for my son. If you have a son or daughter in sports and they are not getting the perceived playing time that
Mm.
you think that they should be getting, because after all, they're your little Johnny, and little Johnny is perfect in every way, and they're not getting the playing time, or they're sitting on the bench, and they're unhappy about sitting on the bench, don't call the coach, please. Let That is a great lesson, to be learned for your child, that not everything should be given to them, and the coach has them sitting on the bench for a reason. They're not good enough, they're not working hard enough, they don't have the right attitude, they can't learn the play, whatever it is. Don't call the coach, because what ends up happening is the coach then has to calls the player in to find out what's going on, and then they kind of wash their hands of it in some cases. So do you agree with that?
Yeah, I will say my husband coaches my son's, like he plays soccer, he plays basketball. He really loves to be a coach, and I kind of see it firsthand in that way. And I agree in the sense that you know what, they're not going to be the best at everything, and there may be very very few that video games may be what they're best at, and that's okay because they'll figure it out. Okay. So they're not the number one soccer player. They're not the straight A student. That's okay. Make sure they have obviously the tools they need to succeed. Make sure that if you are what you're in control of is making sure they get to that soccer practice on time, making sure that they're not hungry, right? Before practice, that they have water with them so they're able to rehydrate. Those are things that are in your control. And that's actually one of the things I work with women on all the time, which is just making sure to reframe things instead of saying, okay, let's call the coach and do all of this. It's reframing and saying, okay, what's happening? Do they have enough of a break even between school and activity? That you have control over. Even if you're not the one that's able to pick them up to give them that break, maybe there's somebody else that can, or you carpool or figure things out. But those are certain things you can do to control to set them up for success as much as you can. But the actual individual actions and physical abilities and all of this stuff that comes along, that's out of your control, so we shouldn't be getting involved in those type of things.
Now, your husband is a coach, so this is perfect. And first of all, I would like to congratulate him on being a coach, because that is a great way to give back to the community. And if you enjoy doing it and your kids involved, I have the utmost respect for anybody that wants to get out there and take their own time and coach kids to do well. And but the one thing that I know, it comes to your husband's, in his world, there are people who will put their kids in sports not because the kid wants to play sports, but because mom and dad want him to play sports, because for whatever reason. They want him to get a scholarship in college when he's 7 years old. It's like he's gonna be great, and stuff. So it's also got to be an activity that the kid would like to, or the child would like to participate in and feels passionate about. And if they don't, go find what they are passionate about and then support that. Do you agree with that?
Oh, yes, with a caveat. And the caveat is, if it's a season, I would still encourage you for them to go through the season, because then it feels like a whole completion. Because when you try like one class and then you're like, oh, well, they didn't like it. Well, pick a time. Make sure you discuss it with your kid, because maybe it's like karate. There's really no season, right? It's just like you go to karate and you go 2 times a week or once a week, for you can go till you're black belt, right? So it just depends on the activity for sure. But with that, if it's an activity that doesn't really have kind of like a season, I would encourage just to have a conversation of how long that is for you. And for every family, it could be different. For a family, it could be, hey, try it for a month. And for a family, it could be try for 3 months. Obviously, not for such a long time. But when you have that kind of time frame around it, then you could really make an educated decision, because whatever you believe for your family is long enough for them to really be able to experience it. Because come on, how many of us now, if you said, okay, go to this new class or go try this new thing, and it's totally foreign to you, or like learn computer programming, like something totally foreign to so many people. Like, nope, but you need to be a coder. You need to learn this new, zeros and ones and all of that kind of stuff, or crypto, like all of that stuff, right? We probably would feel a little lost, and we probably would have some hesitation around it as well. So, understanding kind of a full cycle of it.
Now, I will say that in my opinion, and I'm talking more than you are, but I want to ask you your opinion on this. I think it's important that Johnny comes to you and says, "I really want to play baseball this year. I haven't really played it before. I'm 10 years old, but my buddy Johnny's going to play it, and I'd like to play baseball." Terrific. We'll sign you up for baseball. Here's the deal. If you sign up to play baseball, you're going to play the entire year, for the entire season. I'm not going to let you quit in the middle of it if you decide it's too hard, or you can't throw enough, or you're sitting on the bench, or whatever it is. Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Involving your child is so important. Not just, oh, you want to do this? Okay, great, let's do it. But having much more of that deeper level conversation of, do you understand that this means that there will be practice once a week? Do you understand that this means we have to travel for games? You're going to have to give up half of your Saturday because maybe the games will be far away, or things like that. So they truly understand what they're signing themselves up for. So everyone's on the same page about the level of commitment. Or even saying, you know what, you are already doing two other activities for you. This will be a little too much for us because as a family, we value having time, and having you in three activities will just decrease that amount of time. So, which activity do you want to pick? So that way, we make sure that you're able to give fully to that activity. Because what I see happen a lot is people just dump an extra activity or an extra tutoring or extra this, extra that, and then I hear moms saying all the time, I don't have time, I'm taking them Mondays this, Tuesdays this, Wednesdays this, Thursdays this. And my question is just, why? Because really, who has the power then, and who has the control? You do. You have the control to say, you know what, we're going to do three activities, two activities, whatever fits your lifestyle.
You know, my youngest son, when he was playing football, he got in with a bit of a wrong crowd, and he decided midway through that he was going to quit. So he comes to me and he says, "Dad, I'm going to quit the football team." And I said, "But you do understand what the repercussions of that are, do you not?" And he said, "What do you mean, Daddy?" And I said, "Well, if you quit the football team and then you decide you want to go back, you may never play regardless because you were a quitter. And the coaches don't like somebody that isn't committed. They want you to be committed to the sport." And so he said, okay, I get it." So he quit. And rather than he was what was he, 15, 16? So it's his decision at that point. He's got to make that. And so he did. But then the next year he decides to go back and play again. And exactly what I told him would happen. They didn't trust him. They didn't feel like he was going to be there for them. And so they didn't play him very much, and he sat on the end of the set. But to his credit, that season he played the entire year. And that was the lesson.
Yes, kids need to learn a lesson. And if you involve them early on, then hopefully they get those lessons at 15 or at 10 versus at 30, and when they're quitting a job and realize that their savings actually only lasts 1 month, and they call their boss again and say, hey, can I come back to the job even though I hated it, and all of that they would plan differently as the older they get.
And sadly, I don't want to scare anybody, but that's when they go to the bank of dad and say, "Daddy, I don't have any money because I quit my." It's like, oh, geez. So I've had those discussions because your kids, no matter how old they are, they're still your kids, and you still need to help them if they run into troubles and all that kind of stuff. But enough of that. Let's talk about you, because one of the things that you do and you teach in your coaching program is balance, is having balance so that you don't get overwhelmed with all of this stuff. And you were talking about the number of activities that a kid is, if they're overwhelming the family and you don't have balance, it's not good for anybody, is it?
No. How good could it possibly be for them to literally run around from school to activity to dinner to shower to homework to this to that? We just live in a culture and society that praises busyness. Like, if you talk to anybody, hey, how's it going? It's good. What are you up to? Oh, I'm just so busy. I'm just so busy. That is like such a staple of who we are as Americans, in my humble opinion. And what I do instead is try to say, no, being busy does not equal being productive, number one. being busy does not equal success, number two. And being busy does equal stress, does equal for you to have less time and abilities to focus on your values that you know yourself, that are like really your guiding compass. So that's where we really start, is trying to unravel this busyness, trying to see what is really some of this fluff of just feeling that you should be doing something, things that are actually taking up the most of your time, and what is missing, so that way we can shift it and add what's missing to that space that was like built with the busyness, that now we're learning and figuring out ways how to remove it or adjust it or figure out, because guess what, life is not perfect. So if you have a very demanding job, and let's say you're an accountant, right? Tax season, you're an accountant that does taxes. Tax season is going to be crazy no matter what. It's going to be crazy every single year. I'm not here to say, well, you should still leave at 5 o'clock even though it's tax season because you need more balance. No. What I would say is, let's plan that January to April 14th or whenever tax day is, that you don't have other things planned during that time. So you can be busy with work because that is what you need right now. And then the other months, you're doing things more for yourself. So it's also, that's why I love the one-on-one, because it's really personalized, because that way we can really build around what your life looks like.
Which is really, really, but how do you coach people when they have no earthly idea how their life got to be out of control the way it is, and how do you get them back on track?
I think the simplest way to start is the fact that people know what they want and they know what they don't want. I've never had like a first meeting with a client of where they just said, okay, so what do I do? It's always like, oh my gosh, I want more sleep. I don't get enough sleep. I have too many projects at work, and my kids are telling me I'm just on my phone all the time when I'm with them. Like, it just comes up. Most of the things that I see really revolves around mom guilt. A lot of times really revolves around the lack of time or responsibilities. And a big thing that we talk about is also relationships. Because especially if you have a partner in the home, how we mentioned earlier, women are the natural caretakers. So we're the ones not only trying to do the work and the life at home and organize activities, but also the chores and cleaning and all of this. So we kind of look at holistically everything, and also seeing, okay, well, what are some ways that others can assist, or what are some things we can take off? How can you start to really focus on the fact that you want X, and that really matters, and that it matters enough for you to give up or to remove something else from your life.
Now, question for you, because
Yeah.
do you find in your work that that most partners are supportive when they come to this place and they say, I can't do this anymore? Do you find that most partners are supportive in that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always say this, is that I truly believe your partner wants to help. They just don't know how. And that their way of helping and giving is different than what you as a woman may be looking for. Not always, don't get me wrong. There are some like amazing relationships, and God bless you. However, most of the time what I see is that, okay, if I tell my husband to do X, he'll do it. If I tell him he needs to pick up the kids, he'll do it. But I have to be the one to tell him to pick up the kids. Otherwise, he's not going to remember, or it's not even going to occur to him that, I have a late meeting. But if he has a late meeting, he doesn't have to tell me to pick up the kids, because I know that, like it's just this kind of like cycle. And what's funny enough, I was once giving a talk, and a male came up to me after, and he was like, I love what you're saying. Do you have something for men? I said, I'm sorry, at this time, I'm only working with women. He's like, but we need this too. He's like, I want to know how I can help my wife to do this because I know that she needs this and I know I'm not helping her in the way she wants it to be done.
Exactly. Are you familiar with the book, The Five Love Languages?
Oh, yes. Acts of service right here.
And talk about that a little bit on how we can have that disconnect.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. So, look, we're all human. We're all built differently. And we know that. And outside of the five love languages, which I highly, highly recommend to read, is the fact that our partners are not mind readers. Okay. They may be used to doing things a certain way. So for them, it might be that, they'll just hire somebody to come paint the house, and they think that that's their way of contributing, when you wanted to do it, paint the house in the way of together, and that it would be a nice project, it's connection for you. Or they'll think that if they just come and tell you exactly what needs to be done while you just really want a hug, that there's a total miss on that. Or that for Mother's Day, maybe your partner thinks that they need to buy you a very expensive gift, when in reality you just want to sleep in, or you just want something else. So it's constant communication. And especially in the fact of when you have a partner and then you have kids, you're adding so much more to your life of things that you need to discuss, decisions now that you need to probably make together. There's a lot of decisions that you could make on your own, but still some of the bigger ones. And what happens, especially for religion, or especially for like schools or activities, people usually want both sets to be involved on what those decisions are. And what happens is that they're not hearing each other, because what you believe you're communicating, which is your value, and why you're choosing something, is just going in one ear and out the other, because they're not able to hear you the way that you're saying it.
So how do you get them to open up their ears, or how do you get them to say it differently?
Yes. So one of the things I talk about with clients, or with women in general, is the fact of start small. Okay. If you're going in to talk to them about, like, should we have another child or not? I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, too big of a conversation to just like randomly stop by and say, hey, by the way, so what do you think? Or should we go for number 3, 4, 5? Like, start small, so that way you can just, it doesn't feel like your defenses will come up instantly if they say something else. Start small in conversations of, do you feel like, if you want another child, right, and you want to have that conversation, start small of like, hey, do you feel like our family's complete? Just something small, instead of just like, what, I'm thinking we should have another baby, like something totally big that is gonna not just throw them off course, but they're just gonna be like, no, I don't think that, I'm over 40, and all of this stuff that usually comes up as a reaction, as reactive. So I always say, start small, start getting into the habit of communicating. Think about what is it that's coming up that you can talk to them about this weekend, so you don't have to wait till that morning and ask them to pick up the kids that day. Tell them on Sunday, hey, I'm looking at my schedule, it looks like Wednesday I have this thing after work, or you know what, this Wednesday I'm going out with a girlfriend. That's right, do it. And instead of feeling like, oh, I can't go out with her because I don't know if, my partner's going to be around, like, do it, but just make sure your partner knows ahead of time. Put it on their calendar. That's not micromanaging. That's just being thoughtful. I know I would want to know ahead of time versus sitting around with dinner, and then my partner's not coming home because he has, a work thing or something, and I had no idea, right? Like, it's just being about a good human in a relationship. So when we just start simple, start small, we're able to make those big leaps because we get the traction and we keep going.
And don't start that conversation about having another child when you're driving. You could go flying off the road. It's like, what? So I thought we were complete. I don't know. But that's who do you think should have the greater say in a family of how many children you have, as an example? How do you come up with that?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. Every
Yeah,
couple's
it is.
different. Every couple's different. And, we have to also recognize where some of our bias may come from, such as the way that we were brought up. Because if we were brought up as you know, brought up that children are a blessing versus brought up as children are here to work, or like we have to take into consideration kind of the narrative that we've been taught and how that affects the way that we look at the world as well. So, and honestly, it's don't do rock paper scissors to have another child or not.
That's probably not a really good idea.
That's that's probably not. But it takes time. It takes time because the last thing you want is, to bring a child into the world and then, spend the next 20 years being grumpy about it. So,
Well, and when as an example, if you're an over 40-year-old guy and you're going, when this child is 20, I'm going to be 60. That's and it's not the end of life, but clearly you can't do things at 60 that you could at 40 and stuff.
yes.
So and
And
and it's
that's literally my husband with our youngest. And he's like, But I want to play basketball with them. By the time they're 20, I'm gonna be 60, and then I'm not gonna be able to play as good basketball." I'm like, I don't know if that's my first thing I would think about, but you know what? I get it. I get it. Everybody's different. That's his priority. He wants to make sure he can still beat his kid when he's, 20 at basketball.
well, you would like to think, but I can tell you for a fact that your kids get bigger and stronger than you will, because as you're shrinking, they're growing. So
Yes.
it does make it difficult, and so and plus the fact, if you've got two boys and you say we want a girl, and then what happens if you get another boy?
Oh, I've heard that so much. I've heard that a lot. I've noticed, I don't know what it is, maybe it's just LA, but I've noticed a trend about the 3 kids, and especially in the families of where they have 2 of the same. And it's interesting when you're like, "Oh, third, what is it?" And they're like, "Oh, third girl. Yay." You know?
I feel sorry for the guys that have got like three or four girls and they were trying for a boy and they never got one, and now they've got three or four weddings to go through and all that kind of stuff.
Well, the girls love their dads, so there you go.
Well, that is true. I have two boys, and quite frankly, they could really give a rip at this point in time, is provided that, unless they need money, and then they come and see me when they need money.
Baby steps, baby steps. Start
Yeah,
small, Kevin, start small, okay?
it's too late. They're 31 and 34, so they're grown up men now. So they're going to do their own thing. So, but it's great. By the way, go to Sasha X home .com, and you can find all about Sasha and what she does and the work that she does. She works predominantly with moms, with women, to help you organize yourself so that you're not feeling overwhelmed, because you was one of them's, wasn't you?
Oh, I still am, okay? Let's be clear, right? There is no perfect person. I for sure definitely have laundry that needs to be folded exactly as we speak and all of that other stuff. But the difference is I've been able to truly let go a lot of the expectations, of the guilt, of the, I should be doing this. And just that has enabled me to just enjoy life more, to kind of clearly focus on what is it, who am I think some of the things I've heard, from clients, from others, is just who am I now, because I've just been so busy being busy. And that's where I come in and say, well, let's do that. And guess what, maybe some of the things you loved in your 20s is not going to be the same thing now. I can tell you, I loved in my early 20s, I loved going out at night and like, like hanging out with girlfriends till whenever. And it was so fun and all of this. Now, if somebody's like, let's do a 9 o'clock dinner, I'm like, 9 o'clock, people, come on, So,
9 o'clock. It's almost bedtime.
right? I'm like, come on. But guess what? That doesn't mean that that's the only way to connect with people, And that's where I really come in and say, yes, you may be longing for, what I hear a lot is like, when I was by myself, I could read a book, I could go hiking and all of this. I say, you can still do that, but maybe there's other things right now just to get back to who you are, you would enjoy more, which is maybe being social. Because a lot of us, because we really see the people we see is like because of our kids, the activities or, family dinners and all of the stuff that like a lot of those social relationships, it takes so much more work because now it's like, oh, well, I don't know if she's free. And then getting more than two people together takes like a month to plan in itself, right? So it's just life looks a little bit different the older you get and the more things you have going on in your life. So that's why I say, well, yes, maybe before reading a book would be great, but maybe it's just meeting up with a girlfriend. That's what you need right now.
Exactly. That which would be really good. By the way, you need to be careful who does the laundry in some households. Go ahead, ask me why.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Well, when my ex-wife and I weren't getting along all that well, and she was off doing some other stuff, and I was doing the laundry, and I opened up the dryer, and her clothes were in the dryer, and a 6-pack of condoms fell out onto the floor. Now, I was fixed about 10 years before that, so I knew they weren't for me. And I'm just kidding, and that's a true story, but I'm just joking in that respect. But anyway, by the way, we're talking with Sasha, and you are adorable. I just love your work, and I love your excitement and your enthusiasm and all the things you bring to the table. And I want people to work with you. How does somebody do that?
Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind. If you are a working mom and some of this is resonating, if you're feeling like, yes, I have an endless to do list. Yes, I am over my head with everything going on. And I'm trying to figure out who I am. Head on over to sashaxhome.com and you can schedule a free consultation. Let's talk. Just trust me, connect with me. I can help you. We can do this together. You can get back to being the driver in the driver's seat of your life. Let's do this. Let's do it today.
It is so important. Your life isn't. The longer you wait, it's not going to get any better. So you need to fix it now, so that you can actually. The other thing is, Sasha, is that if you're tired, if you're overworked, if you're stressed, even though you're taking the kids to the soccer game, you're grumpy.
Of course. Absolutely. And what do
And
your kids see? And we always say, oh, but I need to do this for little Johnny because, then he'll be happy, but then you're miserable the whole time. Come on. Who's benefiting from that?
and that makes little Johnny miserable. And so he doesn't want to do it because you're miserable. And then, so you need to have the balance so that you can do the things and be excited about life again. That's what you help bring to people.
Yes, redesign your life. Let's redesign. Let's get back to who you are and who you are today. Because I'm telling you, maybe some of the things that what I see a lot of women say is like, but I've tried and I failed, or I've tried to do something. And I say, yes, because you probably were trying to find and do things that worked for you 10 years ago. Because maybe that's the last time you actually were taking time to focus on yourself. And just like now, we wouldn't think twice about investing in an extra like kid activity for our kids or that extra tutoring or maybe that like management course at work to be a better manager. Why do we think twice about investing in our personal development?
We should not, because if you can't be okay with who you are and be growing and liking life, this is this can be such a miserable life if you hate your life.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter like how rich, how poor you are, or anything like that. Being happy makes all the difference. There are some people I've seen that have very little, but their outlook on life is amazing. And some people that have a lot and their outlook on life is awful. And where does that get us? Let's focus on ourselves. We deserve it. Don't we deserve it? If it's not us that deserves it, who deserves it? Because if we say our kids deserve to be happy, don't you want your kids to be happy? Well, wouldn't this actually in turn make your kids happy because you're able to focus on yourself and they see that you're investing into who you are?
And also who they are. They're not interested so much in what you can give them. They want you. They love you and they want you at your best. And the best way to do that is to be stress free. Okay, there's no such thing as stress free, but to reduce your stress, organize yourself, organize your time, and you help people see how to do all of that.
Yes. I'm not here to say you will never have a to do list. And I'm not here to say you will absolutely have everything done on your to do list. What I am here is to organize and make sure things on your to do list actually need to be there and that you have a plan for each one on how to get there. So that way you're set up for success and you're going through life making incremental changes and setting yourself up for further and further and further progress.
Well, it's interesting. You say in your work that you help people get ahead of their to-do list,
Yes.
which is really so important. I'll give you an example. I was having trouble sleeping last night because I was thinking, well, I've got his podcast at 9 o'clock. I've got a podcast with Sasha at 2. I've got another one at 3, and I need to give them this, and I need to send them this information and do this. Had I done it yesterday, I would have been, oh, it's all done. I don't have to worry about it. Now I can go to sleep and have a nice, relaxing evening. And instead of, okay, I got to get up at 5:30 because I got to get this done. And so getting ahead of the to-do list is a big deal.
Yes. Yes. But when we're so stuck in our reactive, we can't even see that up ahead. And that's why working with a coach, I believe, is so important. But don't get me wrong, some people can do it. Some people are like, cool, I just need to do this, this, and get it done and move on. But I believe we all need a little help sometimes. Not just we need a little help, it's better for us. That doesn't mean that the strategies that I work on with women means that that's the only thing we do every single week. Is that we just see, hey, did it work? Why didn't it work? What could we do different next time so that way we can increase the chances of it working? And then when you feel like you're in a good groove, then we can focus on something else. But it's just the fact that we take the time. We take the time to figure out what works for you. So maybe Kevin, for you, doing the list last night would have worked, or maybe getting up early is an option. But if you're waking up and saying, "Oh, I can't believe I like have to wake up early and didn't sleep," then maybe tonight taking a look for tomorrow would probably be helpful for you.
You, my dear, are absolutely correct. Because I was thinking to myself, well, you idiot, why didn't you just do it last night? Then you didn't have to worry about it anymore. But for some reason, our in our mind, we're going, well, I got to do this tomorrow, and I got to do this. Then you can figure it out. But sometimes you need somebody outside of yourself to be able to say, well, why couldn't you do that last night? Well, because well, I don't know. I didn't think about it. Well, if you'd have thought about it, then it would have changed the dynamic of your entire day.
Or just then thinking ahead of time is that, like for you, if you're doing these podcasts pretty often, right, on a regular basis, just taking a look for the week and just scheduling out those emails. So you can just hit delay on when it gets sent out. So they get sent out and you just get them all done in the beginning of the week. That's another option, right? Like it works differently for each person.
See, there's a delay on my email that I can schedule. I didn't know that. So see, that's why you're educated, and it I'm learning this shit up as I go. Stuff up as I go. So in any event, we've been talking with Sasha, and you are an amazing coach, and you're a wonderful gal, and you have an open invitation to come onto my show anytime you want.
Oh my gosh, that's such an honor. And I so appreciate that. I love our conversations. It's always such a good time. And I don't know about you, but after this, I feel energized. So I'm ready to go. And that's kind of what one of the things I do with women is I hear them say, like, oh, I don't know if I could fit you into my schedule. And what I say is, I'm telling you, give me 1 hour, you will leave that hour more energized to get everything done than feeling like, oh, I have to go talk to Sasha. And I say, I have a money back guarantee. If you feel that it's ever like, oh, I have to talk to Sasha, then something's not working. And I'm happy to give you your money back because I'm here to make sure it works for you as well.
And that is a microcosm of life. If the activity that you're doing drains you, it's something you need to reconsider. If the activity you're doing energizes you, that's a whole different thing. Then that's part of your passion that makes you feel better. And that is something you need to pursue. And if you don't know why you get energized by it, review it and figure it out because that's the sort of thing you should be doing. You agree with that?
Absolutely. And my next level tip for that is figuring out where your energy is during the day. Because some people, they're energized in the morning, some people are energized at night. And then when you really have a good handle on it, you can start to schedule tasks during those times. So that way you're working on projects that are most meaningful at that time where you have your peak energy. So things align and it just moves easier through the day.
I think they'd be silly not to contact you, and they contact you by going to sashaxhome.com. And by the way, one of the things that I really like about you and what you're doing is you're giving back, and you give back to people, and they get to choose who you're giving back to, which is really cool.
Yes. So unlike most companies where they say a percentage of our proceeds go to these
Yeah, yeah,
organizations that
yeah.
we love, I wanted to really be something that you're invested in. So for anybody that works with me or any proceeds I make, then I ask them, especially my one-on-one clients, that's like one of our first sessions, and saying, "Hey, what agency, what nonprofit would you like for me to make a donation on behalf of you that you support?" Because for me, it's about the longevity. So it's not about a one time gift. My goal in that is, again, having people think proactively. Well, who aligns with my values or who aligns with the things I want to see different in the world. So maybe it even then just encourages that conversations. And even if I'm making a donation on behalf of them, then they might then get the newsletter or stay involved or be able to still pass it on.
I appreciate you and everything that you do. And I thank you very much for coming on the show today. Before we go, I'm going to step aside and give you the moment to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know.
Ooh, I would just like for anybody that's listening to know quick tip, which is the fact that since we're talking about being positive, a lot of us, I feel like, focus on making restricting ourselves when it comes to change and habits. So we say things like, I'm not gonna be on social media. We say things like, I'm not gonna eat that cookie today, or things like that. And instead, I want you to think about what activity do you want to be doing instead. So instead of saying, I'm not going to be on social media, well, what do you want to be doing with your time? Do you want to be taking a walk during time as well? Because when instead of eating that donut or cookie or whatever, what do you want to be? You want to be eating healthier, or you just want to cut down on the time of snacking? So, what can you fill up your time with in terms of positive impact? So that way you're not spending your whole day thinking about the stuff that you're restricting yourself from that.
I think that's beautiful because you don't want to say you can't have. You want to say I want to do this.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that makes
Changing
a
our
whole lot of
mindset.
sense.
Yes.
Exactly. Again, Sasha Morozov has been our guest, and I want to thank you ever so much for being here. And like I said, I'm going to send you another thing. You can, whenever you feel lonesome and don't know who to talk to, you can talk to me. That would be
I
awesome.
love it. I love it so much. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much and being so gracious with your time. It's been such a blast.
So hold on right there. I'll be right back. Thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of kmmedia.pro. Please visit our website, oddly enough, named kmmedia.pro, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to each other because each other's all we've got. We'll see you next